All right, let's see quickly now how it's going for parents who want to register for schools next year. Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi announced the launch of online applications for grades 1 and grades 8 earlier in a phased approach this time around. It opened on the 10th of August for grade 8 applications, and then the applications will open on the 13th of September for grade 1s. Spokesperson Steve Mabona joining us now. Mr. Mabona, thank you. So the MEC said that the system would be improving. We have seen glitches every year, hopefully improved. How's it going with this phased-in approach?
Well, Francis, we can confirm that it's going very well. When we look at what we have done now in the system, looking at the numbers, I mean, we have recorded over 100,000 applications successfully, and it's an indication that there's confidence in the process, and we cannot wait to go and to the phase 2 where we're going to be opening for grade 1. So the challenges that we will experience probably each and every year, you would expect to a certain extent some of those, because you will remember that each and every year there's an element of an improvement, there's an element of introduction of some features in the system. You know that last year we introduced, an OTP, which, now we are flourishing on that one. Don't have a problem with our OTPs. Now we are on the phase 1, which we have introduced now this year. So we are improving each and every year.
Yeah. And are there options, firstly for parents who don't have the technology to do the online applications, and then for the parents who say, no, your allocation, where you're putting my child is just unfair?
We have accommodated those that will not be in a position to apply. They will be accessing the walk-in centers and the district offices. They are assisting them, and we also have a call center where if you are struggling, they're in a position to assist you to navigate. But what we have realized is the non-verification of information by parents at our schools, to a certain extent that you will find an ID number that is not corresponding to the parent that want to apply. Like, for instance, a parent being reflected at the school level, meanwhile that the parent is absent in the child's life. The details are there, and we then want to emphasize that parents need to make sure that they check with the school so that we change that information, because if they rush to go into the system blocks them to a certain extent. They cannot continue with application of some features. But as far as the placement is processed, it will be processed in the on the 15th of October, where we'll be checking on the availability and the qualification criteria that that will prioritize the home address. You need to be staying very close to a school to can gain entry in that school.
Remind us of the rationale, because this has been going for a few years. I often speak to the MEC, and he's been quite passionate about changing this sort of stuckness when it comes to a racial bias, where you have white teachers teaching white pupils and black teachers teaching black learners, and never the two shall mix. And the department said, let's come in and change the situation. Is it working? Remind us of the rationale. Am I recounting it correctly? And is what you're doing working?
Well, we can confirm that it's working, because there was a lot of gatekeeping. I mean, people will not access schools. They will just look at you when you come, that this one will not, afford. They will require, ridiculous information like your medical status and information, the salary advice, all those things that will be an impediment in one's application process, or your application will get lost at the school level and you will not have a recourse. The system brought by a recourse where you are in a position to come to us and say, yes, I applied, and why was I not placed? So that's the process that we brought about. And many parents acknowledge that the fact that the system works. It's just that if you are a parent and you apply to a school and you could not gain entry for different reasons, that probably the school has reached its capacity, you will definitely not be satisfied. You will say the system is unfair, system is not working and all those. But if you manage to access space, surely you will then say the system, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's quite easy to navigate in the system. It's user-friendly. And that's what we would say we need to encourage people to utilize the system.
All right, and finally, I mean, do you have any goals in in terms of educational outcomes that you'd like to see as a result? Or do you think we will see as Gauteng, we'll reap the rewards in years to come? Are you monitoring?
We are monitoring, and we will do results, because remember, the areas where the demographic has changed, people can then access those schools. Meanwhile, previously they could not access those schools. And we can plan on how many learners we're going to be accommodating for, or in terms of our budgeting, what and who are we budgeting for in terms of allocation of resources. We can plan and make sure that where we need to improve, we're in a position to then allocate those funds and improve. You know, we have schools of specialization, how many are those, and what are you specializing in? Because in all the corridors, there's some sense that we want a school of specialization in one way or the other, so that learners specialize and they are taught things that will assist them when they leave the system. Not that all of them must think about an employment. They must think about, employing people. They must think about developing and making sure that they make an inroad in making sure that our economy improves. So those are the things that we are looking at in making sure that our schools are accessible to all.
All right, thank you very much, Gauteng Education Spokesperson Steve Mabona.